finding out if everyone can hear me. So usually with kids, I'd be like, thumbs up if you can hear me. But in the chat, let me know if you can hear me so that I know that my mic's working. And then if it's not, I can fix it. So, we good? Not sure. Well, usually someone will let me know if they can't hear me. So I'm hoping that means they can hear me. All right, so today I have some questions from a parent who sent in a good list. And then I also have a giveaway that we need to announce. So it's gonna be a fun meeting today. So starting with the questions. You may have seen the topic of today is about who you would hire to do things, but the questions are way beyond that. So the questions, I'm not going to go into all the details today because this is just live, and this could be like an hour or 2 hour lecture, which YouTube is not supposed to be lecture format, right? And also, I'm not going to be here for 2 hours because I have to go have dinner with my family, which you probably are doing too if you're watching this. So the first question was about, or for several, about STEM in general. So STEM, science, technology, education, and math. Some people say STEAM, science, technology, education, art, and math. Not education, engineering. I don't know why I said education, engineering, but basically science, right? So the problem with STEM in the United States and really a lot of places in the world where this is an issue is that people drop out of it because STEM is hard and it's very, very vast. So what happens is with most things, you just kind of build on what you learned before. And so with math, you go from, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and then you gradually get more complicated. You do borrowing and carrying and long division, and you do fractions, and you do like addition with fractions and multiplication with fractions and division. And then you move into algebra, and you do like those same things again, only now with algebra. And you do geometry, and at some point, a lot of people drop off. But what's interesting about STEM is when people drop off. With math, people often drop off sometime in high school where they're like, yeah, this algebra 2 thing, this geometry thing, trigonometry, not for me, right? And with STEM, people actually keep going. They think they're going into STEM. They love science. They feel prepared. They want to do this. And then they get to college and they drop out of STEM. So they go into college thinking they're going to do science, and they drop out during college, which is not typically what you see in other areas. Typically, if someone thinks they're going into English, they're able to stay the course because they already know how to do the stuff. They know how to write essays. They know how to read books. They're all things that you've done before. The problem with STEM is that middle school and high school don't really prepare you for college, and certainly not for medical school, because science is not about memorizing facts. It's not about knowing vocabulary. A lot of people think science is like a whole lot of really hard words. And, certainly, it's possible that you will need some words, right? It's hard to do science without big words, but most people learn them by memorizing them, which, sorry, there's a car going past here. I'm outside in case you hadn't guessed. I like to do these outside. And my backyard is not available because my family is working out there, so it's noisy. Mostly my dog is noisy. Anyhow, the problem with science is it's not about big words. It's not about memorizing things. It's not about taking tests. It's actually about understanding what's going on. So to understand it, you have to know all these details. And here's the tricky thing. You have to be able to understand them from the base and then build on them. And this is not anyone's fault. My sister is a wonderful teacher. She's a K through 8 certified teacher, and is actually why I'm here. Because teaching is a thing that she suggested, and I love it. But the tricky thing is she didn't have a lot of science, right? She didn't go through any of the classes I did. She didn't take college prep science classes. So I did things like chemistry and physics and biology. In college, I did lots of biology. I have a chemistry minor, almost a chemistry minor in physics, a little bit short of that. I did major in biology, and actually double majored in biology and history. So I have all of the science background. So when I go to teach it to kids, I understand where we're going. We're going here. And so I can take what we're doing here and give a foundation to build up. Now, again, this is not anyone's fault. There is a huge problem in the whole of society. And lots of really great people are trying to fill that gap because kids need to learn science, right? And my sister teaches science to her students better than most teachers do because she actually does it. Even though it's not in their curriculum mostly, she puts it in there because she knows it's important, right? But she doesn't understand where we're building to. And so when she teaches science, isn't this really cool? And let me show you a thing. But she can't really teach like where that's taking people. And she can teach kids, words, or she can do craft projects, or even sciencey type projects, but kids will come out of it not really understanding it because she doesn't really understand it. I mean, she's intelligent, she's college educated, but science is complicated. And even people who know some science get a lot of science wrong because you don't know until you know all the way up to here. People kind of make up stuff to fill in the gaps of what they don't know because it seems logical. And I hear this, people do this all the time. And it's what we all do, right? And it's what I end up having to kind of do if I'm like, people are in a conversation, they're talking about a book, I never read the book, and I'm like, yeah, I've heard something about that author. What's something intelligent I can say about this? And then I can be like, oh, what a coming of age story. And then people are like, yeah, and they keep going. And I had no idea what I was just talking about because I didn't read the book because I was busy in science class. So same kind of thing can happen the other direction with science. So STEM education matters from the very beginning because we're building a foundation to get where we're going. Science right now, a lot of people don't understand how important it is. So people are like, oh, we're spending money on, these people who do this thing we don't understand. Yeah, you don't understand it, but that doesn't mean it's not important. So some things are important right now. I know someone who her whole job is looking for this one little thing in the water that can overgrow the water and then it doesn't work anymore. Like you can't drink it, it all gets nasty, it gets dangerous chemicals from and like that's her whole job, is testing water for this thing and then starting the process of dealing with it if she starts seeing it. And that's a really important job because we need water, right? I need to drink water, you need to drink water. But if someone looked at her job and they're like, what, all you do is like look for this one little thing under a microscope, like that's not important. So it is. But other things aren't going to be important right now. You may have heard of all the cool stuff that you can do with genetics nowadays. For example, people can actually be treated for things they couldn't be treated for before. And that's really huge, right? Being able to treat people for genetic issues because we know about genetics. And that really changes a lot of things. And a lot of things about genetics, you don't even realize how it's being used in your own life to make your own life better. The reason that we can do that now is because people have been paying for science that they didn't understand for decades. In fact, you may have heard of CRISPR, which is a science DNA thing. The people who first invented it, literally in their paper when they put it out, said, we don't know what this will do. We don't know what to do with this. Here's a thing. It's cool. We don't know what to do with it. And some of the people who worked on the project died never knowing that what they created is actually something that's saving so many lives and doing so many cool things, and that we could have never done otherwise. And, helping us understand so much about the world and about ourselves. And that's what science is about, is you learn something even if you don't know what you're going to use it for later, because you're going to use it at some point, right? You're going to need that information. You think back to how the world was, for example, when people all thought smoking was a good idea. What if nobody questioned that, We'd all still be smoking and dying of lung cancer and coughing up blood. It'd be terrible. But instead we know, right? We know how bad it is. So this is one reason that we really need to know this stuff, is it changes our lives. And we need to start training kids young so they're ready to follow through on a career in science. Also, just because some people's brains like science, and for them to not be able to do what they love because they didn't get the foundation they needed is really sad, because now they're missing out on something that they would have really enjoyed. So science, education, really good stuff. So there's a question here like, okay, so if science is so important, why are people who aren't science people writing this stuff? Because we need them, right? We don't have enough of it. And so I'm not faulting it when pastors or elementary school teachers or librarians or someone with a degree in social work or whatever write science curriculum, because they're trying to fill a gap. They see a need and they're trying to fill it, and that's admirable. The problem becomes they don't know the science. So I routinely find mistakes from really wonderful people. I mean, people where I'm like, I love the work they're doing, they just don't know the science. And so they don't know when there's a mistake. And the thing is, like, I can catch mistakes in human biology, but if there was a mistake in like an engineering topic, or if there was a mistake in how electrical stuff was being taught, I couldn't catch that. I have no idea. I mean, I learned more than most people, but not enough to be able to catch subtle mistakes. Whereas I can catch subtle mistakes in human biology, which is why that is the only thing I teach, because I focus on the things that I know. Now I teach chemistry because I have a minor in it, right? But I'm not teaching, I don't know, theology, essay writing, the history of French evolution or civilization, or I don't even know the words for these things. I don't teach the things I don't know. I teach the things I do know, which is biology, chemistry, and a little bit of physics where it overlaps with those things. I'm not teaching a big bulk of physics that I don't understand. I do understand. I did well in it, but not well enough to teach it. I mean, that's the thing. Even as a doctor, I feel like I still didn't understand some things well enough to teach them. I studied in order to teach these topics. I really dug into the basic science and made sure I understood everything about it before I taught a topic. And that means that when I teach it, I'm teaching it from the very foundations, and I'm making sure every detail is going to align with where kids need to be. Because I see where they need to be, I understand the basics, and now we're going to get there. So I can't do that with history. I love history. I even majored in history, but a college major in history actually is not enough for me to feel competent at doing that, which is why I stick to science. Because in medical school, we did biochemistry, pharmacology, lots of chemistry. And we did, of course, lots of biology and lots of human biology and lots of physiology. And so those are the areas that I really focus, because those are the areas I feel confident I'm not going to screw up. Because what I don't want is for someone to think that something I said is true when it's not. Now, certainly everyone can make mistakes, right? I always try to point those out to kids when I do see a good resource still make a mistake somewhere, and I try to correct them if I ever find them in myself, which I think I found like one or two, and I felt so embarrassed. At one point I said like large intestine instead of small intestine for one particular condition, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I messed that up, because I don't want kids to get the wrong information from me. But if I wasn't a science person, I probably wouldn't have caught that mistake, right? Because I wouldn't have known the large intestine versus small intestine is the place where a particular disease process happens. So this person also asked, with search engines, I can find anything I want. So why do I need a science curriculum or science teacher when I have Google? So I hope nobody here trusts Google too much, and definitely not AI. I see so many kids and grown-ups thinking AI means artificial intelligence, means it's intelligent. It's not. Sorry if the sirens are a bit loud. Hopefully there's noise blocking on this. Artificial intelligence is not intelligent. It is a pattern predictor. So it does a lot of something called hallucinating. So AI hallucinations means it makes stuff up. It's just a really nice way of making stuff up. But it's because it just does the next thing. So if you've ever done a text where you just tap the next thing, it'll predict weird stuff, right? It predicts your next word as something completely inappropriate or unrelated or whatever. So that's kind of how AI works too. It's just a more complicated algorithm. And so it does a better job of predicting what comes next, but it's just predicting. And so it's just based on what it guesses comes next in a sentence. It doesn't actually understand anything. And so depending on the topic, up to 50% of the information coming out of AI is a hallucination. 50%. And I find these mistakes all the time. I tried, I forgot what book it was. I was doing it with my kids. I homeschool. And it was one of the Ramona books. And I looked up on AI for I can't remember what I was doing. I think it was, I know what it is. I was looking for books for the book club, actually. I was looking for books for the book club in which the kids have medical conditions, or there's a parent with a medical thing or whatever. And it gave me the wonkiest list that included tons of stuff where that was not the case. And the most striking to me was the Ramona books. Now, I don't know if you guys read the Ramona books. I grew up on the Ramona books by Beverly Cleary. And a big thing with Ramona books is her parents are working class, working really hard. Her dad has all these really terrible jobs, and then he loses them, and then he gets a different job. And so I remember one of them, he was working in a freezer, and so he was cold all the time, and just kind of like a normal family, which was really revolutionary at the time, because so many books were about the perfect family, and they were like a normal family dealing with normal stuff. So AI told me that Ramona's dad was a doctor and that she loved going to his office with him, blah, 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 blah. Ramona's dad isn't a doctor. AI just hallucinated that. That's not true. And it happens pretty frequently. So AI is really good at the summary of a book, because those are all over the internet, right? You can find those on all different websites. But what it's not good at is the contents of a book, because it hasn't read the books and it doesn't know what's in there, and it's going to mess it up. So kind of the same thing with science. It's really good at headlines or predicting which word comes after the next one, but that doesn't mean it's going to be true. This is really random. O. Henry. I loved O. Henry. I mean, I still do, but I don't have as much time for reading. So I got this whole set of O. Henry for my birthday when I was like 14 maybe. I don't remember. My mom got it for me. I loved it, and I read every book. It was a huge set of O. Henry. And one of the stories, there were newspaper people who had to get a secret message across into an area like in a war zone or something. And the way they wrote the secret message, every word was just the next word that comes after it, like predicting. And it was really funny because the whole thing about it is how predictable news stories are. They always use the same phrases, they always use the same words. And so they got this whole message across just using the first word, and then the second word was the word you actually needed. And so it's a really cool little code, but that's actually how AI works too. So when people look at Google, they're looking at, first of all, a lot of stuff is now AI. You have to be careful with that. But even if you're going to legit websites, you have to look at what websites you're going to. My family did this really interesting thing years ago. I had everyone grab their laptops or their Chromebooks or whatever they had, and we all sat around my mom's table. Now, my mom at the time, her husband was still there. He's now in a facility with dementia. And then I have 4 brothers and a sister. And so we were all there. And I think my sister's friend, my brother's girlfriend, whatever, there were a bunch of us. My husband was there. And we all looked up the same stuff. And we got really different results. My stepdad got really, really different results because he was reading all sorts of like way out there stuff that was not scientific, and he got that stuff for his answers. My sister, who's an elementary school teacher, got like elementary level stuff, like craft projects and, that kind of thing. If we looked up science, for example, if we looked up science, I got PubMed, eMedicine, like National Institute of Health, National Library of Medicine, real resources. So we all searched the same thing, and we all got different results. And that was all of us. Like everyone in the room got a completely different set of results. I think the one thing that overlapped with most of us was Wikipedia, which at least that one is a pretty reliable, like encyclopedia level source. And it actually cites its sources. So you can see where they're getting that information and see if it's coming from a legit source, which is good. But a lot of the information other people were getting was from like a blog where like it's one random person's opinion, which isn't science. And kind of the same thing happened when we looked up other topics too, like art history or whatever. But we really found it was the worst with science because I think there's so many people who are kind of weighing in with an opinion that may not be accurate. And there's so many kids projects and there's so many news stories, and there's just a lot of like not real information out there. So you have to be able to work through that to know what's actually true and what's not. And certainly if you know science, you can check through that and be like, nope, 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 nope. In which case you aren't going to be Googling it. Like if you actually knew science, you wouldn't be Googling it, right? And kind of like you wouldn't probably go off of what Google says for a lot of really important things. If you've ever Googled a health condition, everyone is going to die of cancer. If you Google a medical condition, that's always on the list, right? But hopefully you're all at a point where you know that and you don't believe that. But the problem is that's how all of science works up there, is it's all whatever Google pulls up first, which is not accurate, right? There's another question here. Okay, well, if it's so hard, then how do I even teach my child at home? Well, it is hard. It's hard for me because I teach my kids at home too, and I'm actually really good at science. And one of the hard things with science is there's so many sciences. Like I'm really good at some science, and then there's other areas I just don't know as much about, like engineering or electricity or physics type stuff. Like I just don't know as much about it. And so, certainly I'd like to be able to have some resources for that, right? Or there's things like chemistry where like I'm really good at teaching it, but I don't want to have to like sit here and figure out the entire curriculum. That's why there's curricula out there. But what you want to do is see who wrote the curriculum. So here's the tricky thing. I see this all the time. I look for something for my kids. I'm like, oh, this looks really good. And then I look up the person who wrote it and they're like Dr. So-and-so or so-and-so with a master's degree. And then I'm like, okay, well, what is their doctorate in or what's their master's degree in? And I can't find it. Like they don't tell you what their degree is in. So then I go look them up on LinkedIn, which is a really good place to find someone's real degree. It doesn't always work, but most professionals will be on there. And oftentimes it's a degree not in what they're teaching. So they'll have a book on a science topic, but their degree is in not science. And then they go put themselves as Dr. So-and-so, and I feel like that's cheating. Like I wouldn't go write an art history book as Dr. Robin Dickinson pretending I was an art history PhD, right? I don't have a PhD in art history. I'm not going to write about art history. I'm not going to pretend I have a master's in divinity when I'm writing about theology or whatever. Like, I'm not going to do those things. I'm not that person. So always check what's the degree of the person. And remember, a bachelor's degree in something doesn't count, actually. I mean, it's nice, but you can go to college and get a degree in all sorts of things. And like, that doesn't mean you learned a whole lot. You can get you could have gotten C's the whole way through, and you could have just taken some basic classes, and like, and you could have gone to a school where it wasn't really their focus. They didn't have much available to you. And I don't know, you just have to be really careful. And then, look at how much education they have about education too, and how much experience, because sometimes you'll see really good science stuff, but not really explained well. So there's one series, I really respect the person who has an education, who should be teaching this stuff. It's great. But the explanations are so confusing that even I, with my degree, had to go look things up. So I was trying to use a chemistry program with my younger child who loves chemistry. And I was so confused by this explanation that I was like, what are we even talking about? And then I went and got out, because it was just like throwing words, which is not explaining. And so I pulled out like an actual reference from my stuff. And I was like, oh, they're just talking about this. And so then I just went and re-explained it to my child in a way that actually made sense. And again, you have to look at, when you're done, did you get thrown a bunch of words, or did it make sense? Now, again, this is not to diss anybody, and I'm so glad there's so many people trying to fill this gap. At the same time, when you're choosing for your child, you can make your own choices and try to find something that's clear, where your child understands at the end, not where they can just like regurgitate words. They have to be able to explain it in a way that makes sense and how it fits into the rest of science, which is tricky. And it's something that my kids are like, oh, when I make them do it. But you want to do that. So finding someone who has the training, and the education in the topic that they're teaching, and who is good at explaining things is really, really key. Most people are going to have something about their educational philosophy out there, and that can be very helpful too. But not everyone, or like, I have it out there. I don't know if you can find it. I mean, it's on my blog, it's on my YouTube channel, whatever, but it might not be the first thing you find. But I keep talking about it, so you will find it eventually. But, knowing something about what their goals are, my goal is kids understand science, right? I want them to get it so they can reason through it. And yes, memorizing can be important, but you can also forget things, right? So I want people to be able to think through it and understand. So that's a big part of how I teach. All right. Oh, it's almost time for the giveaway. So if you do want to try my science program, just a heads up, I am a doctor. So it was written by someone with a degree in what I'm teaching. I went to medical school. I went to a family medicine residency. I practiced medicine for a decade. And now I've been teaching for almost 5 years now. Thousands of kids around the world, which is really cool. So I've really honed in on how to do that. Though in some ways I started teaching when I was in 3rd grade, because that's really when I started like trying to make things make sense for kids who are struggling, because I was bored. So I needed something to do. Anyhow, you can try Dr. Robbins School. There should be a link in the stuff that is on here, the notes. And yeah, try it. Everyone gets a 30-day free trial, because we don't want you there if you don't want to be there. We want you to know what you're getting. And it's just a click to cancel, which, by the way, everyone should have click to cancel for you now. It's legally required. We've had that, but not everyone has had that. So make sure everything you do, you can just click to cancel, but definitely with us. But we find people don't, because once you've used it, as we see, the only people who cancel are people who didn't actually use it. Once you get in there and use it, people love it. So just go try it. You'll love it. So drawing. All the enrolled families are entered for a drawing. So every week we do a drawing, we'll get different people. And I think our next drawing is in a few weeks. I don't know when it is, but people in charge of me will tell you. Jill will. So here is our giveaway. I'm supposed to show you my coloring book, and I forgot it. I have a coloring book, you guys. I made a coloring book. It's really good. I designed the whole thing myself. Every drawing is designed to actually teach the anatomy as you're working on it. And it's all shown in the context of the human body. So like, you don't have a heart floating in space and like a digestive system, like it's all in where it belongs. So you understand what it has to do with the rest of the body. But we have two winners. The first one is Suzanne Garbus, who gets a $25 Amazon gift card. And then the second one is Kate Morton. You won a coloring book. So those will be going out to both of you this week. And congratulations on winning. And anyone who wants to enter the next drawing, Everyone who is currently signed up for Dr. Robin School, whether you're on a free trial or you've purchased, you are entered to win. So sign up and you will be entered in the next drawing. And of course, all the people who are already entered previously, because they were already here, you're still entered again. As long as you're one of us, one of our families, one of our students, you're on the team, you get entered to win. Because who has time to go do something to enter, right? So we're gonna make it easy for you guys. Let me see if there's anything else on my list. No. So if you want to try out the program, there's going to be a link. You can go start your 30-day free trial. If you have any questions, please contact us. Our email address is hello@docrobinschool.com. That's hello@docrobinschool.com. And Jill can get back to you. We also have a text and phone number and all that kind of stuff that I don't remember. But you can always text Jill and call her too if you need help with things. And yeah, so next event, same time, same place on YouTube. So I hope to see everyone here. Bye, everybody.